Hey, thanks for joining us today. So we're here to talk about Quokka's brand new state-of-the-art GitLab plugin. We're very excited about it. And the GitLab plugin really allows us to run the Quokka scanner as part of a developer lifecycle. So if you're a typical developer working on, say, an Android app, I happen to have a nice little demo Android app right here. The typical workflow is you would go in here and make your code changes, right? And then you would push the app into GitLab. And GitLab would fire off a CI/CD pipeline, and that pipeline would do your build job. So what we've done is we've added the ability to do the build and then basically also run the Quokka analysis. So we are MAST, right? Mobile app security testing. And that runs as part of your pipeline. And depending on how you have it set up, it either passes your build or potentially you can fail the pipeline job based on the threat score that comes back from our analysis. So let me show you those details. I have a job here that passed. I'm using it as an example. This is the build step. So if you're a typical developer, you got to build, it runs for a few minutes, and then you have the Quokka analysis. Now our analysis runs in anywhere from 15 minutes, I think is the fastest I've seen, up to almost a couple hours, depending on the complexity of the app, how busy the queue is, et cetera. So it kind of runs in the background. Obviously, there's a timeout we can set. And then when it's finished, it does a couple of things. One is it actually does come back with a threat score, and I'll show you what that means. But it's essentially a measurement of how secure or insecure the app in question is. So my Android app, being a test app, purposely scores pretty poorly. But depending on how I have the project set up, I can either say, hey, if it's over 70, fail the pipeline job. Or I can say, never fail the pipeline job. And that's what happened here. So it succeeded. Then we have some artifacts that come in, and then we can look at the results. Could look at the results. Now, you could do a few things, right? One is you can actually download the PDF report over here. It's part of the artifacts if you have it set up that way. And if you look here, we have our report of this scan, and it shows the information. So here's my Android app. Right, we have the details on this threat score that I mentioned earlier. That threat score is made up based on having issues or vulnerabilities or weaknesses that we find that kind of break down into different categories. And so here you see that. And then, of course, we have the rest of the report that shows us all the different issues. And these are everything. Some of these things are privacy, some are security. There's lots of different findings. So that's one way to consume the output of this automated pipeline. The other thing you could do, if you go back to the pipeline, actually right from here, there is a security dashboard. So if you click on the security dashboard, this now is a list of the types of issues that commonly are something a developer can affect, right? You could change the manifest, you can fix something in the code, you can change the library you're using. So this issue, for example, is telling us that in the manifest, the debugging is enabled. So that's bad because potentially somebody could use that to reverse engineer the app and kind of use it for various nefarious purposes. It might be fine if it's an engineering build, but if it's going out the door, so to speak, you would probably want to take our solution over here and go and set that to false in your manifest. The other kind of issue we have here is from a third-party library, right? So we've identified that this is actually using some third-party libraries which have some issues. So here's a link to the the issue description from NIST. It's got a CVSS score. It's got a severity, and then down here there's some details around which library it is and what you can do with it. So for example, the OK HTTP between these versions allows a man-in-the-middle attack, and so you might want to consider upgrading that to a different version. JetBrains Kotlin has a vulnerability, etc. So this is basically going off of existing sources that have known vulnerabilities and us looking at your bill of materials to understand what versions of libraries you're using and then provide you with some idea of what you can do about it. Now, for each of these, you could actually create an issue if you're going to go ahead and make a change to fix the problem, or you might ignore it. Like I said, if this is an engineering build and you need debuggable enabled, then you would just dismiss this vulnerability and it would get ignored. And as you can see, you can basically never see it again, right? So in a nutshell, that's what the plugin does for you. It completely automates the process of running the analysis you just do your normal workflow. You edit some code, you push it into GitLab, sorry, you push it into GitLabs, and then after that, your pipeline takes over and does the job for you. And there are some configuration parameters that we could look at, but basically the analysis will run here. It will give you a link to the web interface if you want to look at the results there in full detail. It will give you a PDF file. It will give you a JSON file if you want. And then, of course, you can view it in the security dashboard as I was showing over here. So we hope you use it. We hope you love it. And if there's any feedback, of course, please do let us know. We are Quokka, and this is our new GitLab plugin. Thanks.